All right, what we're hearing, we got it's a lot to go through, and Georgia's through their first scrimmage. We got 11 days down of fall camp. Georgia finally getting a break right now, but it's been fast and furious. The biggest thing that so far that folks are talking about are the running backs. And for if you've done what I've done for long enough, you always have to hedge. Like, are they talking about the running backs because they're freaks, or are they talking about the running backs because a season ago Georgia didn't have health going into September, and you could tell they were using Dylan Bell lining up at running back. You're going with Cash Jones, against South Carolina. I think it's because the guys are badasses. That's my guess. It's what it seems like. There's a lot of confidence about where Georgia's at on that front. A few other things because I don't want to forget. One reason, like when I look at the screen here, I want to make sure you're taking advantage of this $1 offer, y'all, because I forget stuff when we're talking as friends here. And I'm gonna put it on the screen. You can get $1 right now. For $1, you can get the dog post until the Alabama game, and I'll put a link to this down below that you can read all this. On Saturday, that was a big day at Georgia in terms of setting the tone, and I think Kirby told boosters that he has been happy with the way that Georgia's camp has gone so far. I think he was not super happy with the way things went on Saturday at the scrimmage, but oh my God, we can't miss layups. But that happens in scrimmages. Like you're gonna have some scrimmages where it doesn't go great, and I think Saturday just didn't go great, and that's kind of all there is to it. I think it was fine. I don't think it was really bad or anything like oh, we really need to be concerned about that. Nah, I wouldn't put it like that. Here's one thing that Kirby said to folks after the scrimmage. He said, well, I don't want to quote him here, but here's one thing from the report that we have over on the website. Again, make sure you're clicking down below. The link is down below. Kirby Smart football practices are fervent. Details must be buttoned up. Otherwise, verbal corrections are made. No one is immune. That's at the 4-inch level. At the 40-foot level, Kirby said he likes where his team is in terms of accountability, telling boosters that Georgia is ahead of where they were the last two seasons in terms of a specific metric the program uses in terms of accountability. So they're going where they need to go. Like they're pointed in the right direction, but they didn't go fast enough on Saturday. The other thing, you don't want to bury the lead here. I mean, I think the thing people are talking about the most are the running backs. I mean, it started with Branson Robinson, and now it's sort of morphed into Frazier. ETN has been discussed a lot the whole time. Those guys for sure are people to pay attention to. You're going to see them. I mean, it's not like you're going to see them. I'm not hiding anything about this. I mean, those guys are going to be front and center against a very good front seven against Clemson. But it looks like right now that Gunnar Stockton's the 2 at quarterback, which is not surprising. Off the top of my head, I'm going to get some of this stuff wrong. I hope not. Arian Smith, Lovett, and Bell are your starters at receiver. Oh my gosh, I'm going to try to do it off the top of my head with the offensive line. Tate in the middle at center. You've got on the outside, you have Green and oh my God, I shouldn't have done this. But anyway, your group, Tress and Green on the outside. I'm sorry, and then either Fairchild and Morris on the inside. But you've got like Freeling is rolling in there with the tackles. They're doing okay on the offensive line. A tight end is probably going to be Delp and Lucky for the time being. And Georgia's so multiple, but like I think Delp. Look, Oscar Delp's going to have a good year, okay? And I I don't think every single time we say Oscar Delp, you have to mention Brock Bowers. Oscar Delp is going to be a really good tight end for Georgia. And it sure looks like Lawson Lucky is going down that path too. Because if you read what Todd Hartley said the other day about how much Lawson wants to perform, and learn and so forth, there's a lot to be said there. I think one guy I want to mention, he's young. He's not like, I wouldn't get, I don't think he's going to make a play against Clemson necessarily, but Quintavious Johnson, who is someone who flashed a year ago, he was vastly underrated by the .coms. They got that wrong. Matt and I were talking about it last August that they're getting it wrong. He's someone to pay attention to. I think Dylan Bell is the person that could come up and, you're paying attention to him quite a bit over the season. They've got everything they need in terms of the offense. On the defensive line, I think not necessarily the defensive line, but acutely the defensive line versus the rest of the defense, they're not overly deep at defensive line. And, I think there's a fine line for Kirby and them getting the defensive line guys ready versus, like possibly getting them hurt or overusing them. So that's why with guys like Johnson, they need to step up. The younger guys, Hall and Jarrett, they're going to have to play well. And then, you hear good things about the younger defensive linemen too. So let's just, it's always speculative, about, because we don't see every snap of practices. It's very speculative, but I trust the people that we talk to. They know what they're talking about. I do think Georgia's DBs, they got really ridden on Saturday, and it was a long day in the heat, and the DBs, were asked to do a lot because they threw the ball a lot. Corey Thomas is going to have to play well. There was a lot of defensive holding on Saturday, but I think when you step back, there's a lot of really good going into this season, and there's always non-linear paths at the beginning of seasons. And linear means straight line. That's not how it works in athletics. I mean, like, you score, the other team scores. Like, you don't just beat people 60-0 unless it's the TCU game. And it's important to remember that you're going to hear good and bad. And if you're only hearing good, they're not telling you the entire truth. I think Georgia'd like to have Jared Wilson at center. They can't do that right now. They would have liked to have had Ra Thomas. Well, that's gone. In the secondary, it seems like they're forming up the secondary. And I think anyone, that's trying to get past Dan Jackson is going to have to bring a lunch because, he's been around the block. He's played in national championship games. He was in on the pivotal play for Georgia against Alabama. I mean, he's on the cover of Dog Instruction getting blown up. And he's just been a real steady player for them. So those spots, but at linebacker, they're just so firm there. They have so many guys, particularly in the middle. This is a really good team. The kickers, I was told on Saturday, played pretty well. It looks like the punting is, not going to be Brett Thorson. That's not going to be an issue again. So they've got this is a really good group. I think the main thing to focus on as we move forward is will there be depth on the defensive line? Because at some point, younger guys are going to have to take snaps. What will happen to Clemson is they'll get tired, and they're going to be playing a Georgia offense that's going to be happy to turn and give the ball to the running backs. And you don't want that to be you. Like, you don't want to be in a situation where you're in the third quarter and Alabama, fourth quarter, and it's third and whatever, and your guys are huffing and puffing. You need to get the ball back. So it's, um, it's important to have that depth on the defensive line, and they're just going to have to create it with the guys they've got, and they've got plenty of guys. Again, the running backs are really good, but no one's talking about Carson Beck. No one's asking questions about Carson Beck. Why? Because he's a starting quarterback and all that. But, Carson's got to play well. One thing someone was saying to me about the scrimmage on Saturday, and this is not a surprise, but like nothing seems to bother him. Like nothing seems to bother him. But I think, this is a Georgia team that is going through the rigors of August. It's hard. August is difficult because you're putting your team together. There's a lot of guys that won't play that are practicing, a lot of heavy minutes. If you're a third team guy, you're not going to play a lot. So, but in with what Georgia's doing right now, you're going to see a lot of third string guys. That's just what it is, and that's the hard part is having practice where your ones sometimes when you're mixing threes in there, it just can be sloppier. Guys don't know what they're doing. They're not as good. There's all sorts of stuff, but people are excited, and they're excited because of what they're hearing, and there's been a lot of seeing during these practices. We saw the first day. We've seen 2 practices. Boosters have seen 2 practices. That's 4 of the 10. In past at Georgia, you might have seen 2 of those or 1. So there's been a lot of visual identification of what's going on. There's been no injuries yet, although Jared Wilson being out as long as he has not been great. I think they've got to figure out what they're doing on the at corner for sure. They're just got to figure out who the person is. They don't have to, like magically, that person doesn't have to magically appear. They just got to figure out, who the person is, and that's going to be, finishing that out, and then obviously on the offensive line too. When does Wilson get back? And at running back, they just look it's very good. It's going to be a very good year at running back for Georgia, it looks like to me. So a lot going on there. Make sure you're checking out our offer. The link is down below. Thanks for watching.